Welcome to the Startup Passport by eConsulate. Today we're here at the Upstream Festival and I am joined by Max Van Splunteren. You are the analyst for corporate development at VolkerWessels, is that correct?
Yes, that's very correct, yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about what you do there?
At VolkerWessels, it's a big Dutch building company, so it's the leading Dutch building company of this year. And basically what we do is we build everything that has to do with construction. So we build houses, we build offices, we build infrastructure, so roads, railways, tunnels, bridges, but also everything to do that has to do with the energy transition. So high voltage lines, cables, stations, everything, regarding to gas pipelines. So a lot of things that you normally don't notice, we build. So it's all in the public domain, basically.
And in terms of energy transition, did you see any changes to your work or how the work is approached? Because obviously sustainability is becoming a huge topic these days. So how's that working in that sector?
Yes, it's a good question you say, because our work changed a little bit more in the sense that we have to do a little bit more programs in that direction, right? So we have a lot of regulations coming to the companies like CSRD. Our environmental scores are much more important now for our for the tendering of all the public public buildings we have to build. So in that sense, our work has pivoted a bit more towards how to get the process within the company better, rather than really having to work in the field of environment or CSRD or that kind of thing.
Yeah, and before you went into that sector, you studied aerospace engineering at TU Delft, and you also were involved in racing, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So next to my studies at the TU Delft, I've always participated in motorsports, like from when I was 16 until I think 2 years ago. And this is also something, of course, not totally environmentally friendly, but we try to work on it because in the current Porsche Super Cup, they drive with e-fuels. So that's also very a step in the right direction already. And in during my studies in the TU Delft, aerospace engineering, it's been a very interesting journey, to say the least. Doing racing and now working. It's a very big pivot, but in the end, I like it a lot.
How did you find out, or did you until now find out if there's like one thing that you really want to do? Because if you have the different fields and you're good at one field, but maybe in another field you're better, or you're just like good at multiple different things, but maybe you want to have like one thing where you're really good at. Is that something where you have to make a decision at some point that you focus on one thing rather than having multiple ones at the same time?
That's a good question. Yeah, I've had this realization moment specifically, I think 2 years ago, when I did my internship as part of my master's degree at Porsche Motorsport. And when I was driving and doing the internship at the same time, I was basically doing 2 full-time jobs. And that doesn't really work, right? So you're doing 2 things at 80%, which is frustrating, to say the least, because you see your performance in the motorsports deteriorate, and also you're not as sharp on your job, right? So that realization really triggered the moment for me to choose something, and either to go for racing or for working life. And it's very difficult to make a living out of racing. So in that aspect, I really doubted going there, and really rather started my job. So yes, in coming back to your question, I feel like it's very important to at some point in your life say, okay, I'm going to do something where what I like, but also something where I'm good at, and also something which is important for yourself.
And would you say the last point, the importance for yourself, is that how's that reflected in what you're doing right now?
I think what I'm doing now is very interesting in a way that I learn a lot, especially from the variety of businesses we have, the variety of cultures that we have within VolkerWessels. And that's also something I really like, you know. It's not easy in the sense that you always do the same thing and you're constantly dealing with the same people. Every project we go to within our work as corporate development, we go to a different part of the company at VolkerWessels, which could also be a different part of the Netherlands. And all these different cultures is something I like, and then also having to navigate between these different cultures and different companies is something that, is something that's very valuable for the future, I think.
And going forward, this might be a question that is not necessarily tied to your position, but do you think, especially with the aspect of being future-proof and sustainable, do you think that that is then only regarding VolkerWessels in terms of the new infrastructure that is being built, or do you also think that old, already existing infrastructure has to be updated in a sense to be more sustainable in the long run?
Good question. I think in terms of what we do now and what we build new, like a new build, we have to try to be as sustainable as possible, right? But it cannot be 100% environmentally friendly because we have to use certain materials which are, a little bit bad for the environment, right? So we use a lot of concrete in bridges. We try to find something else. We also try to use electric material as good as possible, but you know, it's very hard to get something new to work in such a big company. So this is why we are also connecting with startups now and then in order to get the feel for what the market's doing, what the new ideas are doing, and if we have something that is cost effective, but also interesting for our our position as a building company in order to really improve our environmentally friendly building. And going back to your question for the current things we have, it's already built. Like we have to maintain and service these, of course, as environmentally friendly as possible. And this is also why we use the electric material, why we take everything as we take all the rest and all the debris that we create, we take it with us, we properly shift the waste. So we try to do our best, basically.
Yeah, and this will be very interesting to see in the future how this will develop. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you also for sharing your background. That is very interesting, very different for most of the people. And most importantly, thank you for joining today.
Thank you very much.